Hello everyone, it is Caitlin and today we are making a variety of 1830s cuffs. Let's start with some ruffle cuffs. So the Workwoman's Guide has cuffs really starting on page 75 and the ones we're doing are on 76. 75 kind of has just a basic. There are various kinds of cuffs for different purposes, of which the most useful only are here explained. And then it kind of goes into the type of cuffs. So we're going to work on, it's plate 10, figure 27. It's a very small little, cuff. Really not very difficult. Looks like it's a band that's fairly wide, maybe an inch or so. There are no dimensions given, by the way. And then there's a little bit of lace or something tucked up in there, which it has various directions. So it says this is to be worn as a trimming or edging below the sleeve upon the hand. The band buttons inside the sleeve. The frill is a muslin, cambric, net, or lace. It should be very full and got up in puffs or very finely crimped. The ends of the band should have deep hems in which the buttonholes are worked. The band is about 3/4 of a nail deep and 3 or 3 nails and a half wide. Which means I gotta do math now. 6 3/4 wide, which is not going to go around my wrist. My wrist is wider than that. So we're going to just skip that. The band is 3/4 of a nail deep, meaning about 1.5 inches by really whatever it's going to take to button. So let me get a measuring tape. So I need the finished cuff to be about 7 inches with some overlap, so probably 9 inches for the buttonholes. It does say to make them quite deep. So 9 inches plus a little bit of turnover. So 10-inch wide strips is what we need. It does say quite full. I don't know what quite full means. But we're going to go ahead and cut some bands. So I said it's not quite 1 3/4, it's a little bit over. We're going to add seam allowances to it as well, because it looks like it's pretty well finished. I guess it's all turned up on the inside, almost like a little tube. You just put lace on one end and you fold in the raw edges. That's what I think is going to happen. So I need to cut it with seam allowance. And I usually do about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance when I'm sewing by hand. So if I do want it, if I add a 1/2 inch for either, that's 2.5 inches. I'm going to rip that. I'm going to do it all the way across. I'm going to make a couple of these. So I need 10 inches and cut off the selvages. Even though they're really not very obtrusive. But I need 10-inch wide strips. And really I'd like 4 of them so that I can make 2 sets of cuffs. 1, 2. I'm going to need to iron this before I do any sewing. So for the frilly bit, it does not say how wide the frilly bit should be, but it looks to be about half of the width of the band. So roughly 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to use lace for one of them. And it says very full. This is about 3/4 inch lace, so it'll work perfectly. It says very full. Shall we say that's 20 inches? Just do twice? Or should we do a little bit more? Maybe, let's do 25 inches of lace. Love the amount of guesswork that's always required with this. A little bit more for seam allowance. I haven't been able to find any extant cuffs from this time period to actually check my measurements against, so we're kind of just going off the Workwoman's Guide and some paintings. So hang on, if I want to do the same thing but just in the wall, the same fabric, have a plainer set that's still frilled, I need 3/4 of an inch plus 1/2 inch seam allowance is 1 1/4, 1 1/2, because we're going to need to turn up the other end. So 1 1/2, and I think we're just going to use this whole, whatever the width of this fabric is, we're just going to cut it in half and have 2 cuffs. So I need 1 1/2. We're going to fold and cut that in half. Alright, there's 2 cuffs, 2 sets of cuffs done, or cut at least. So the next set, figure 28, which is the next one. It's just very plain, and you can kind of see where the seaming all is, and where it turned everything under. Okay. It says this is a neat, simple little cuff and suits collar, plate 13, figure 26. It is well adapted for mourning, like death mourning. Cut 2 pieces of muslin, net, lawn, or cambric of 2 nails square, and hem each round with a broad hem. Sew the 2 together to the depth of 1 nail. The parts sewed together form a band inside, while the others being unattached fall backwards over the sleeve. I'm going to need to process that. Give me a minute. 2 nails squared is 4 1/2 inches. 4 1/2 inches isn't very big. But it does say to hem each round and then sew the two together. But that's the part that's confusing. Sew the 2 together at the depth of about 1 nail. And I see where we're sewing them together, but the depth of about 1, oh, not all the way through though. To the depth of 1 nail. The parts sewed together form the band inside, and the other is, so it's going to like create like a little V shape over the sleeve. That makes sense. Okay. Let's try this as is, because the 2 nail square, that's 8. Does a broad hem though. So it would end up, if I did a very narrow hem, about 8 inches, which would fit. But I feel since they want a broad hem, that we should make it a little bit bigger. 2 nails squared, so that was 4 1/2. Let's cut 5 inches square, and we're going to need 4 of them for this 1 pair of cuffs. That is for the plain cuffs. I say plain, it's the voile cuffs. So next we're going to do net and the dotted net. So here's my dotted net. And this is just more scraps that I've used to make some undersleeves and a collar for an 1860s dress. So this is perfectly suited. I'm going to iron it first though. Here's my ironed net. I'm going to just put my little square that we already cut and cut out 4 squares just like it. And cuffs are so small, they're really nice to use, you know, bits of this, because this is expensive fabric. And it's just nice to be able to use the scraps you really can't use for much else. So I could make a couple collars with this. With all my bits cut out, I'm ready to start working on them. So first I'm going to iron everything. So all this, just since I ripped it, it just needs to be ironed down. All those little bits, this too. The plain cuffs, all 3 of them, I went back and forth on the hemming because it does say a broad hem, which is not very specific. So I think I've decided I'm going to turn it under 1/4 inch and then turn it under another 1/2 inch, which isn't necessarily what I would consider broad, but I didn't want to take too big of a hem because it's going to make these too small and it's going to just be a tiny little cuff. We're going to start with the ruffled one, and I am making a hem. This part, of course, we won't have to do with the lace one because the lace one's already finished on this edge. I'm just doing a very narrow hem. Basically, I folded the edge under about 1/8 of an inch and then ironed it. And then as I kind of started sewing, I just ironed it. I just folded it under another 1/8 of an inch. So it's really a 1/4 inch hem. Next up, putting in a gathering thread. The original directions do say to crimp it or puff it. I'm going to gather because I'm trying to make it kind of go with a habit shirt or collar that I'm making. And that one's based off an original, and it is definitely gathered. So I want to kind of have something that kind of goes with that. Alright, so there's that one. Do the lace now. Gathering threads are in. Let's make some cuffs. So I think the original plan was to have 2 of these sewn together. We'd put the lace on one side and hem the other side, turn it inside out, you know, like a tube, use that. I only cut 4 of these instead of 8 of these, and I don't feel like cutting any more. So we are doing it in half, which makes the band a little narrower, but I think it'll work. So I did one up to kind of see, and I think it's going to work just fine. It's still about an inch wide, maybe slightly less, maybe like a 1/16 an inch less. But yeah, about an inch, and I think that's going to work out just fine. So, and the gathers are full, but then the Workwoman's Guide said quite full, so I think we did okay. And now that I have it kind of situated the way I want it to, y'all know I don't waste any thread, so I'm going to use the same thread I used to gather. Not even cut it off, but just kind of go where I stitched the gathering row. And, you know, not tiny stitches. We're just kind of sewing it together. Now that's sewn on. I am going to go right ahead and kind of just loosely go to the end here. At which point I'm going to fold this over and pin it. Now on the back I have this lovely little line that shows me exactly where to stitch. And we're going to use our nice stitches now. And just sew all the way across. Now we're going to turn the whole thing inside out. A knitting needle is helpful for this, or a pin. I don't know where either of mine. Oh, there's a pin. It's easier once you get it started. And then once you find the ruffle bit, that gets really easy because then you just pull on the ruffle and it kind of just slides right out. There we go. I'm going to iron that flat and then iron in these ends a little bit. And there's that one, which means I have a pair now. Make sure they're the same size. There we go. So yeah, a pair of cuffs. I am going to sew that right up. According to the original, you should then do buttons and buttonholes. I think I'm going to be lazy and not do them, mostly because I don't like buttonholes. I think I'm going to pin them into my sleeves, at least the first several times I wear them. And then maybe eventually I'll get around to do buttonholes, but I can just pin them in for right now. I'm going to set those aside. We'll do the other lace one. I did one lace one, but it gets done the exact same way. Except the lace is a little bit more difficult to work with than the wall, but you know, it likes to ruffle itself far too easily. Same thing, I'm just kind of sewing it on not very nicely, just so I have a line on the other side. I mean, you can do it all at once, like just fold it under now, this other side, and sew it all on one seam, but you'd have to feel for exactly where you wanted the seam to be, and I just find it easier to have a little bit of a guide. Let me iron that, and other than the little edges, we'll be done. I'm going to sew those off camera, but there are the two lace ones. That needs to be tucked in a little bit this way, make it even. That's better. So I already actually pinned these together. I forgot I didn't show you. The camera needed to be charged. So what I did is I folded the ends in about 1/4 of an inch and then fold them again 1/2 an inch. So I did that on all of them. So I ended up with about a 3.5 inch square, because I believe we cut them originally 5 inches. this is harder to do on this lace than it is on, or the net, than it is on the actual fabric one. So we're just gonna use a running stitch, because the directions do say to sew it all around, or hem it all around. And one day we're gonna make a set of evening undersleeves, I suppose, or oversleeves really, for the 30s out of this stuff. One day. I have to save up for that because this fabric's like $70 a yard. Alright, I'm going to iron that and do 3 more of these. So here's 2 of them. And the directions are a little weird because it says to sew them together for a nail, which is 2 1/4 inches. And then the rest of it is going to be what shows. And then this part is underneath, which makes little sense to me because that seems like a very tiny little cuff for this amount of fabric. So I think we're going to do it 1.5 inches, sew them together. So I think we're going to do this as a blind stitch maybe. So there's 1.5 inches right here. And we're just going to barely sew them together. You'll probably also use a very tiny whip stitch for this. I'm just going back and forth, and not very well, I might add. Alright. So when folded, it's going to look more like that. I think that's acceptable. I mean, one more, of course, of this, because I need a matching cuff. And then maybe work on the net ones. Alright, now I get to, fix this first. Now I get to iron this one and make 3 more. Alright, and here are 2 cuffs. Same thing, about 1.5 inches. Alright, one more net one, and we can work on the fabric one, which are technically our last cuffs. I'm actually really impressed. I got home from work around 4. It's not even 9 yet, and I made dinner. That took an hour. Alright, I will see you when this is ironed and I have 3 more done. I have 1 more cuff to do. And then I shall put on a dress. And we'll try each and every cuff on with the dress and see which ones look nice. I think they all will, but yeah, we'll see how they all look. So I was actually already dressed in the 1830s today because I'm filming this dress and other things for the same event that I'm making the cuffs for. So I went ahead and just tucked some cuffs in. They're not actually sewn in, they're not pinned in, they're just tucked in because we're going to be taking them out and doing all the other ones. So these are the pointed estuary ones. I think that's how you say it. But they're the plain set ones, and they're actually set very nicely into the sleeve itself. I probably could put it in a little bit further, but yeah, they really do set off the sleeve very nicely. They're nice and pretty. They lay nicely. I mean, they're cuffs. What else can we really say about them? But they're cute. So they definitely give that little finished look to the wrist, which is kind of what I was looking for. So I'm going to take this one out, put in one of the wall ones. Wait, this way. And again, I'm just tucking them in today. For actual use, you're going to want to pin or sew them. See, these are quite nice. Like, look at that. Look how pretty that is. That is absolutely adorable. So yes, and this one's coming out already, but that is absolutely precious. I think I like these the best of the lace ones. or the plain ones anyway. I think these just look really nice. But, you know, it's really pretty. My sleeve's a little large, so in theory they actually almost would meet. I just need to, you know, it's not a big deal that it's this loose, but it would be nice if it was tight and then the sleeve, like the cuff would actually like really look nice. So that's what that weirdness is. But part of it is my sleeve's pulling itself down. So yay, pretty cuffs. Let's see what else. Let's put in one of the ruffly ones. Let's put the ruffling one in this way. So there's ruffly cuff number 1. Just a little frill, that's all it is. And we'll put this one in on this side. And there we go. Just little tiny little ruffly cuffs. And they look absolutely adorable. I do like the plain set better, I think, than these. But these just kind of give a nice little, just little whiteness at the wrist, which I think sets off the wrist nicely. So, yeah, that is what it is. These are easier to make, but not by a lot. So take that for what you will, but this is just, I like the way the other ones kind of set over the sleeve. I think that's what I like about them. So let's see, we'll put in the other ones. I guess the only ones we haven't put in are the plain net ones, which are the ones I'm actually going to put into this dress for this next event. Where'd they go? Found them. Okay, stick them in. I think these are the ones I want to wear. Maybe I want to wear the plain ones. I might want to wear the plain ones. Not that these look bad, just I really liked those. Let's slide it back over. Yes, just like that. So, pretty cuff. I mean, they're cuffs. They're not anything particularly spectacular. Little things that you don't have to have. I've seen lots of portraiture without cuffs. You know, women not wearing cuffs. So it's not something you need to have. But, you know, you don't see people making them very often. So they may be underrepresented. I haven't actually done like a study on that. But, you know. Wait. That's why that's weird, being weird. It goes this way. I shouldn't talk and do this at the same time. That doesn't work well. And here are the plain cuffs. I think I might do the actual wall ones for this weekend. I like those a lot. Not that I don't like these. I just think those look better. So, yeah, these are fun little cuffs. So we did all sorts of things. It really didn't take very long. It took me maybe, well, it took me an evening. Just an evening. I got home from work, and we talked about that earlier. It didn't take me very long at all to make 5 sets of cuffs. Which is plenty of variety. It'll go with any of the dresses. I can leave some pinned in and still have extras if I wanted to change them out. Right now I only have 3 dresses, so 5 pairs of cuffs is good. So thank you so much for joining me today as we made some cuffs. Hope you have a great week, and I will see you back here on Monday.